Welcome to 80s Love, guys. Today we are looking at a pretty wicked deck here. This has got to be one of the coolest graphics and so 80s, so iconic. This is the Vision and Ken Park Crystal Ball, and this is from 1987. So obviously this is the reissue of the deck, and we're going to walk through it today. I'm excited to do this one. This is so rad, but I'm not going to lie. There's a bit of a moral dilemma that's taking place within me right now. I've had some conversations with Ken Park, and I've seen a lot of conversations just around the Internet of Things with regards to the business model of Vision. And it's a struggle for me because I don't have all the information, and I hate jumping to one side or the other. But I do know that the riders aren't getting a single penny from these decks, and I do struggle with that. Because I feel like the company was built off of a lot of these skaters, the Tom Graholskis, the Lee Ralphs, the Ken Parks. Like there's a lot of those guys that were out there just building that brand and contributing to the skate culture that, aren't being monetized for their efforts. And I don't know all of the working details, but I do know that the Vision riders are ticked and bitter. And I've seen certain comments. There's a blog called Vert is Dead, and so I'll reference some of those today. But yeah, there's comments by riders within those that are saying essentially that they were taken advantage of, and that there wasn't a contract in place, that would help them moving forward monetize any of the reissue decks or anything that came out. And so it is a little bit frustrating to me. And the other thing, and I've mentioned this before, but it's super hard to find any information on the artists for these graphics. And I know that if you get into these different blogs and stuff, you read about how the artists were essentially paid a salary to come in and work and do what they do, and then pursuant to that, because they were compensated through a salary, Vision was able to take ownership of the graphics. And again, if that's how you're paid and you agree to it, that's one thing, but I still think that there's value in adding recognition to these graphics. And so it was really hard to find out who was the one who actually did this graphic. And so when I reached out to Ken, he had mentioned that he thinks it's Marty Jimenez, so the Vision Jinx, that skater that did the art for his series. And so again, I think it was Marty Jimenez and I'm probably butchering his last name, but Jinx anyways, that did the art for his series. And so before we dive into the specs on this one, let's just take a good, I've got the shrink on here, but let's take it off. I did want to just show you that really the only thing on the shrink here is this made in United States, made in the USA sticker. Outside of that, there's nothing else. And so let's just pull this off so we can get a better look at this deck anyways. But yeah, let me know in the comments what your thoughts are, guys. Like, I've seen even just some of these writers say, don't support Vision just because of their business models. Now, the one thing that I do think is that and it doesn't make it easier on some level for the actual riders themselves. But if there wasn't these reissues coming out, we wouldn't have a chance to get our hands on them. And secondly, my kids would really never know who Ken Park is, because it's kind of one of those things that it's out of sight, out of mind. So when reissue decks are coming out, it keeps these skaters, the graphics, the shapes in front of us, and it just helps the roots live on. Do you know what I mean? Like, if I wasn't able to get my hands on this and get it in person, it's just, I still have a pile of respect for these guys, but it's kind of one of those things that it's out of sight, out of mind. If you're not seeing these, oh man, that looks so good out of the shrink. Wow. Glad I did that. Take a look at that. Oh. Yeah, I wouldn't be appreciating the beauty here in the graphics and having all the memories of seeing, Ken Park in the videos and in the magazines and stuff, right? So I just think it helps keep those riders to the forefront still. It helps us talk about their relevance and the contribution that they did to the skate culture back in the day, in the 80s, to bring it to where it is now. And anyways, I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on it. But before we get into this one, I'm just going to show you that there's some other rad graphics kind of in the series, and I've always loved this series. So in 1987, there was this one. I'm just going to go to my screen here and pull some of these up. I'll put them up here. But yeah, you'll see that we also had, so this is the crystal ball, and then we get into the, whoopsie daisies, the wizard here. Which is pretty rad. So it looks like the crystal ball has dropped and cracked open, and I think that one was 1987 as well. Then we get into the Park 3 in 1988, and then there's a mini that drops in 1989, and so this is a mini model, so which is pretty rad. So with that Ken Park 3, I'm actually going to show you guys some footage. I'll bring it up because I really want to highlight Ken Park. Constantly talks about how blessed he was to skate with these giants, but he doesn't acknowledge that he was a giant himself. And dude was a monster. I'm going to show you guys a couple examples. 11-foot boneless. Look at him just completely launching out of the pipe there. And that's one of the things. He was doing massive airs towards the end. I mean, he was right up there with Christian Hosoi as far as some, big airs and stuff. And if you've seen Ken skate at all, he's essentially the opposite of something like a Ray Barbie, where Ray Barbie is just, ragdoll, right? Like that's his deck right here, and he's a ragdoll. He's so smooth, he's so easy going with it and stuff. Ken Park is a power skater. He looks like, I was thinking like a hockey player on the ice, just so solid and so powerful. And then I was watching another video and they were referencing him kind of as a football player on a skateboard. Again, just that he's so solid and so powerful. And so he would get massive airs, and then he was also really known for his crazy inverse. And so you know what, let's actually go through a couple clips here, just so you guys can get a reminder of how amazing he was. And he didn't only just skate with giants, he himself was a giant and a massive contributor to skating. So let's just take a look at a couple clips here, and then we'll get back to talking about the specs of this actual deck.
No, I want the whole body. I want skateboard.
Okay, you want the whole body?
I want this artsy fartsy stuff.
That's him. He's not afraid of it, and that's him. One hand on the wheel, jumping my train, and that's me. On my face again, you got advice for me, but I'm telling you, I know nothing. That's him. Oh, that's him. He's not afraid of it, and that's him.
Okay guys, so one other thing that I wanted to touch on, when I was doing some research on Ken Park, it was actually really difficult because there was a movie that came out and there's a lot of drama, a lot of controversy around this movie. And, a lot of people kind of pin it on Ken Park, the actual skater, and it's not. So a gentleman named Larry Clark did this movie. He had conversations with Ken Park about using his name for an actor that was going to be in the movie, and then Ken Park was going to have a small little clip in it or something like that. Anyways, Ken Park, the actual skater, he didn't even get his part. It never made it into the movie. And so it starts off with this one kid that's a skater, and they name him Ken Park, and he commits suicide right at the start, and then the whole movie is based around this, but it's a pretty controversial movie, and was banned in a lot of places as well. But anyways, they're on one of the Bert is Dead blogs. There was a lot of people just getting in there, slamming him for his participation in the movie, and then just a bunch of other things that Ken Park wanted to clear up. All right, so anyways, in this one he said that he had nothing to do with Larry Clark's rendition of Harmony Korina's script, although I did sign a release in exchange for a cameo that ended up on the cutting room floor. It's just unfortunate because when you look up Ken Park, that's all you get is, anyways, that movie by Larry Clark and the controversy around it and whatever else. And so he's kind of pinned with that. Now, the other thing I did find is I think there's a younger Ken Park out there that's a skater that's doing a lot of videos and stuff as well. And so I see him quite a bit. So it was actually difficult for me to cut through all of the crap that's out there to get into the goods of the Ken Park that we're looking at today. All right, so on that note, anyways, let's just jump into the specs on this guy. And man, I am so glad that I pulled this thing out of shrink. It looks so good. Let's get another good look here at it. That top graphic. So Marty, amazing job on that. Mr. Jinx, amazing job. And I actually did reach out to Marty as well, and just to 100% confirm. But yeah, I haven't got that confirmation back yet. So anyways, I trust Ken, I trust his memory. I know my memory's fading, so I would understand if there was a gap there, but yeah, Ken's pretty sure that it was Marty that did up these graphics. And I really wish there was some sort of indicator here. But anyways, all right, let's get into the specs of this one. So this is, again, is the reissue. It's 9.75 by 30 inches. And then the wheelbase on this one, so measuring in between the trucks, is 15 inches. There we go. The nose on this one is 5 1/4, and the tail is 6 7/8. And so the one thing that you guys, if you haven't already picked out, Vision does not do, let me just pull it up here. Oh, well, it really doesn't matter, but yeah, okay. Okay, so you can clearly see here that Vision has not decided to go with the old school truck roll pattern. The pros and cons to that, the con is that it just doesn't go with the deck. Like, as far as I'm concerned, these decks should all have the old school truck roll pattern just to keep the authenticity. So it's missing that. The pro is that you can literally go to any shop and buy a set of trucks and put them on because it's the new school truck roll pattern. So that makes it really easy. I did reach out to Vision as well just to see what their process was for putting the graphics on the deck, and it's Brad Dorfman that has all of the controversy around him regarding his business practices. But I believe it was his daughter Kate that got back to me and did say that, yeah, it is a heat transfer process. So similar to what Powell's using for their process. All right, guys, sorry, I forgot to mention the concave on this. I don't have the exact numbers. They don't give a specification or a classification of the concave. This one, though, from 1987, we can see that it's not, as flat as it is in the early 80s or mid 80s. It is 1987, so we can see that there is some concave taking place there. The tail's pretty nice on it, and there's not really concave to the nose per se, but there is a nose, which is nice to have. And if you go back to the other videos that I posted of Ken skating, you'll see that he's skating the Ken Park 3, and it dropped in 88, but even that version has quite a bit more concave to it. But there you have it, just a look at the concave there so you guys could see that side profile. I did notice the tail has a bit of like a dip in it here, and kind of reminds me, I think, of the Hosoi hammerheads. I think some of the Hosois have like a little bit of a dip in the tail here. It's not completely square across or around it. So outside of that, guys, I don't know, if you're looking at Ken Park videos, I would just go on there and give him some love, because I do see that he'll engage on videos or information that would be out there about him. And so go out there and just give him some love. Again, he was a massive powerhouse skater. huge airs, and his inverts were like next to none. Just, yeah, outside the box, crazy inverts, and was really known for them, and just really a monster in the skate community. Not to mention the fact that his fans absolutely loved him. If you look back to some of those clips again, or I'll put links to those videos in the description, but go check him out, and the fans are eating him up. He was a monster, and he really deserves some more recognition, and I'm just stoked that I was able to get my hands on this. And honestly, after seeing the whole series, it would look so cool to have the entire series on the wall. And even as I'm saying this, it's a moral dilemma, because we grew up and Vision was so iconic. I mean, I've got a few hoodies, I've got Vision pants, we wore the berets, all of that Vision stuff. These were the decks that we loved because they were so iconic, but hearing the business side of it really taints I just don't know if I want to support a business model where they're not recognizing the artists. And honestly, guys, I'm a little bit schizophrenic with this, because I don't want to, but I also feel like there is support in the sense that we're able to carry on the history, the roots of skating by seeing these reissues and having them and going out and skating them and sharing them with our kids and the next generation. And so I don't know, guys. Again, what's your thought on it? But thanks so much for taking the time to tune into 80s Love. A lot of drama in this one. That's not usually how it goes. We're usually just talking about the decks and a little bit of the history, but I just wanted to give you some of the insight. So one other thing is Ken Park, if you're on LinkedIn at all, he's the CMO and director of Ion Digital Corp and the founder and chief strategist at Octane Media LLC, and you can find him on LinkedIn, and that's actually where I connected with him, was through LinkedIn. And again, he was kind enough to get back to me. Here we go, guys. Vision, Ken Park, and oh yeah, just even the Vision light on there, so good. But anyways, Vision, Ken Park. This is the crystal ball from 1987, obviously the reissue. Cheers. Thanks for tuning into 80s Love. Peace out.